it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I'm Isha Marathe, and I'm here with Keith McGilvery. He's the morning anchor on WTIC FOX61 in Hartford, Connecticut. Thanks, Keith, for joining me.
Yeah, good morning. To be here.
These are unprecedented times. Nobody expected this. Just to start off with, how are you dealing with it? How have you had to adjust the way that you work?
That is a big question. How am I doing with it? Well, I'm healthy right now as far as I know, so I'm appreciative of that. And I have been anchoring our morning show from my apartment for the last week. So last Thursday, I was kind of told I would be the first up. So on Friday, I went live from my living room to see if things would work, and then it did. So the rest of the morning team followed suit. The dynamic is very, very different. So typically we're in this large studio. We have a 7-person ensemble kind of morning team with 3 or 4 reporters who are out on location as well. That dynamic has changed dramatically. We are here in my living room right now, turned television studio. I'm sitting at my dining room table. What you don't see kind of over my shoulder, or in front of me rather, I have a television camera with a DeGiro box, which is kind of the modern day equivalent to those giant news trucks you used to see in your neighborhood, decades ago. Now that is almost the size of a toaster oven. It's sitting in the corner of my living room, attached to a tripod and a camera. I have a microphone that I'm hooking up to, and then I wear my earpiece, which allows me to call in and hear my producer, who is also working from home. So our entire morning team was the first one in the market to be entirely remote. So I'm working from my dining room table along with the rest of our team. And we will be here through the duration of this until it's safe to go back to the newsroom.
Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of, sort of sitting down with your team and deciding that this is what we're going to do from now on?
It happened very quickly. It was not a long conversation. I was told after the show a week ago Thursday that Friday morning I would be on location from my apartment, and we were going to try to figure it out. We went through the weekend, and the rest of the team followed suit. So it was a lot of people working quickly behind the scenes to kind of pull this off. My first day, I went live from my cell phone. I have 20-foot ceilings in my apartment, so the acoustics were pretty challenging. I transitioned to a camera and a DeGiro box, or some people call them like a TCU, I think, something like that. But I transitioned to that technology pretty quickly, and the rest of the team followed suit. So it wasn't like this lengthy, multi-day conversation as to how we're going to pull this off. Our managers said, for the safety of our team and for your individual safety, we're going to execute from outside the building. So it would have been great to have a lot of time to think about it, but it was kind of a lot of trial and error. I have this makeup mirror here that I got at Kohl's, which is helping to light up my face. I have all of the different lights from my apartment are kind of surrounding my space, and we've kind of been troubleshooting as we've gone along. But it has been a real adventure. It's been trial and error as we go. Our viewers luckily have been willing to kind of go on this adventure with us, understanding that safety comes first. But the dynamic of doing a morning show with your 7 different people in 7 different locations and our producers producing from home is a challenge for sure.
And have you ever had to deal with anything like this before?
Nothing close to this at all. The closest I had ever done to anything like this was back with Superstorm Sandy. I was at a wedding in New York City, and due to complications at the airport, I was unable to fly back to my station in Vermont. So I reported, I think, for 2 days from New York City for my station in Vermont from my cell phone, which kind of pales in comparison to this, but it was kind of the only time in my career where I've used kind of a different form of technology to broadcast for my audience. And in that position, I was a general assignment reporter. So it was kind of just like I was turning a package with, I think we used Skype or FaceTime for my intro into that, but it was, largely a self-contained piece that ran a couple of minutes versus now we're doing a 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. show completely remotely. So anything on this scale, no, I've never done that before.
And do you think it's something you're going to carry with you for a long time after this is over?
I mean, I think I'm still relatively young, but having been in this business for a decade or so, there's nothing that has compared to it thus far. I think it's going to dramatically kind of shape potentially what we do moving forward. We're doing a lot of experimental stuff. We're talking right now over Zoom. We're doing a lot. I can no longer leave my apartment to go interview people on stories. So I have people sending me videos. We're FaceTiming with people. We're Zooming with people. It's changing the way we do storytelling very dramatically. So I think that it will stick with us, whether it's better or worse. Like right now, we had more opportunities kind of in the format that we were using 2 weeks ago than we do today, but we're continuing to try to evolve and figure out how all this works. But I have a feeling we'll be remembering this for a long time, saying, I remember when I anchored the morning show from my apartment for X numbers of weeks or months.
What kind of feedback are you getting from your viewers? This is a big change for them as well.
So I think a lot of them were pretty surprised. I think at least in the first couple of days, we got a little pushback initially because we were the first station in the region to do this, Other stations started to follow suit in different degrees. I think most people have been pretty supportive, which has been great. They've kind of been excited to kind of see the inside of our homes. It's kind of a more casual approach. I don't know if you can see, I have like a record player over my shoulder here.
Oh, do you see that?
So people have been like emailing in, like, tell us about your record player or radio. Like, what do you know about it? So I think it's like a different vantage point for them. And they have been pretty forgiving for the most part because they're home too. Viewers are trying to figure out how to do their jobs from home in the same way that we're trying to figure out how to do our jobs from home. And when you're with people for so long every morning, like we are in somebody's home for 7 hours every single day, I think they've come to know us, hopefully, and appreciate the fact that we're doing the best that we can. And people have different suggestions. People are sending us photos. They want to know if I'm in my pajama pants, am I in my slippers? They're sending us pictures of their kids. So we're trying to very much make it as interactive a process as possible. And I think that as this has kind of progressed, even over the course of last week or so, they're really getting a feel for the fact that it's dramatically impacting their own lives, and they're seeing how it's impacting our lives as well. Trying to be that trusted source of information for them is, a big responsibility, but, we are the only station that is live literally all morning long. So we're there when they're there.
And as you alluded to right now, it's definitely, you're in this unique position as journalists right now, where yes, you have to live through this pandemic as a person and as a citizen of the country and the world, and at the same time you're reporting on it all the time. How do you deal with that personally? What has been the toughest thing for you in that realm?
I'm naturally a people person, so that has been a big adjustment for me. Typically, I anchor the first couple of hours of our show, and then I crisscross the state doing live shots kind of as our good news ambassador. So my day and passion revolves around being around people. So that has dramatically changed. I happen to be a single guy, so I live alone, and I'm working alone all day, and then I'm alone at the end of the day. So I'm FaceTiming with my mom like everybody else is, and my siblings who are out of state. But it is a lot to think about. You're thinking about your own health and safety. You're thinking about your family's health and safety. And I think it's kind of those thoughts that we bring to the table every morning when we do our own show. Like, what are the conversations I'm having with my mom, and how does that relate to the conversations we want to have with our viewers, some of whom may be her age, or some of whom may have children the ages of my niece and nephew, or even my siblings. So we are living the same experience that we are reporting on, which is not always the case, because we report on a lot of stuff that I have never seen, done, experienced, and you're kind of like at a distance almost. And here we're very much in the thick of it with everybody else. But it is a challenge, for sure.
And are there any little things, hobbies, or anything like that you've been using as a stress buster in this situation?
So I just watched Tiger King on Netflix that everybody's talking about. I don't know if you watched it. I have yet to master that. I mean, I'll still go out for a run occasionally. I live right in our capital city, right by our state house in kind of the big park downtown. But it's obviously a much different, quieter experience in my neighborhood. I have 2 restaurants right in my building. Both of them have been closed. And I'm not living a tough life by any means. I'm healthy so far and I'm doing okay. But when I get off the air at 11 o'clock, I have the news networks on, kind of trying to stay up to date on what's going on. So I typically work a 3 to 11:30 or 3 to noon shift. But our governor doesn't do his daily press conference till usually 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock. So I'm staying up late watching that. So I know what's transpired overnight. So I know what I'm talking about, again in the morning. Sometimes you would have been able to kind of pick up on things based on the conversation I would have in the newsroom when I come in at 3 a.m. That luxury is now no longer. So trying to stay on top of things that in a environment where it's changing almost minute by minute, it has been keeping me busy. But I guess when I'm not doing that, I'm probably watching Netflix or going for a run.
You mentioned you're a people person. The news, by its nature, especially newsrooms, tend to be so collaborative. How is it not being next to your co-anchor anymore?
So Margot and I spend a lot of time next to each other. And so I do miss her, but our team is finding new ways to communicate. So we are all on Facebook Messenger in the morning. That's kind of through trial and error, we figured out that's the way things are working best for us. So if a producer is killing a story or eliminating a story or adding a story to the rundown, typically that would have been communicated to me through my IFB in my ear. Well, I no longer have a producer in my ear, so he or she is sending me a message on Facebook Messenger, kind of the same thing for Margot. We're communicating back and forth that way, so it is a completely different dynamic. And it is a weird feeling, we're with people. It's kind of like the experience that our viewers get at home. So like I'm still with Margot, Erica, Tim, Matt, and Dan every morning, but I'm with them the way the viewer is with them, where I'm seeing them through a screen and they're not kind of next to me anymore. So I'm kind of getting a feel for what it's like for the viewers almost in a way, but we have had to troubleshoot how we best communicate with one another as well. And then we're doing Facebook Messenger, we are sending texts all the time, but a lot of us are using our phones as cameras and our phones for scripts. So right now I have 2 computers, 2 iPhones, a television camera, a DeGiro, an earpiece. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but we're making do. We'll touch base during commercials too.
Right.
But it is a different feel for sure.
And if you had to pick one thing out of this whole experience so far that has surprised you the most, what would it be?
I don't know that I've been surprised the most by it, because I think Margot and I say on the show a lot that we think in the world that most people are good. So I don't know that because we do report on a lot of doom and gloom and sad stuff, but we often say that we believe that most people are good, and we've really seen that kind of shine over the course of the last 2 weeks or so. There are so many people doing so many great things to help out other people, and kind of in my role on the show, I try to highlight that as much as possible. I'm doing a morning segment that we launched as a result of this called Sending the Love, where viewers are sending me video clips of things that people have done for them in their community or things that they've done for other people. And then I'm airing those clips on our morning show. And people are doing all kinds of incredible things, aside from our first responders, nurses, doctors, who obviously are on the front lines of this. So it has been kind of pretty uplifting to kind of see what is happening on that front. And we're almost building kind of even a more intimate relationship with our audience, because they've really come to, I think they always counted on us for information, but now I think a lot of them see us kind of as a great outlet to spread some good news as well. So that has been really, really cool.
You've mentioned good news and the kind of positivity that's come out of all of this. I feel like lately a lot of people find the news just so depressing and so negative and overwhelming. Why is that important for you to kind of highlight the good? How do you think it's indicative of society today?
We had to highlight the good. So we can't be on the air for 7 hours every morning giving people doom and gloom for 7 hours. They'll turn off the TV, and then in turn they'll miss out on the important information that they need. So we said, hey, how can we craft a morning show, given what's going on, that resonates with people, that gets them the news that they need, but also hopefully leaves them with a reason to smile. And for us, we knew we had to do it. So we're doing this Sending the Love feature every morning. People are sending us pictures. We're doing Pause for Pets, where people are sending us in pictures of their cats and dogs doing fun things. I'm doing a segment called FOX61 Homeschool that I just launched, where parents and teachers are sending us videos of what they're doing with their own kids at home that's working for them, so other parents and kids and students can learn from that. We're doing a segment called 61 Seconds of Serenity, where it's just like an opportunity, like for 61 seconds, we'll show you a waterfall in a Connecticut community or kind of the sunrise coming up over Hartford. And it's just a time every morning, multiple times a morning, where we all can kind of just take a deep breath and relax. So I think that it's good that we're doing it. I think it's a good public service that we're kind of highlighting the good as well. But from a purely business standpoint, people can't watch 7 hours of doom and gloom every day. And while we bring them the news that they need, hopefully we want to give them, a reason to come back and hopefully find some optimism in a tough time.
And is there anything else that I might have missed that you think is important for me to know and for my class to know right now?
Get ready for the adventure. Most of you will probably start as one-man bands or MMJs, kind of doing it all. This is like an MMJ experience cranked up to a new level. We are being MMJs, you're still using a camera, you're still editing in a traditional format. You young people will probably be better equipped to take this on than I am, but we are completely in the period of a week, we have completely transformed the way we're telling stories. So I used to go out with a cameraman who would edit video in an editing system, and now all of that is being done on my phone. Just be ready for the adventure. But I think what hasn't changed, because I've had this conversation with students before, what hasn't changed since doing it starting 10 years ago to doing it today, and even kind of given all that we're dealing with, is like, you have to like storytelling, you have to like journalism, you have to be a good writer. Like, kind of what is at the core of what we're doing has not changed. Hopefully we're still telling impactful, powerful, engaging stories. Just the way that we're doing it has transformed so much, and in such a short amount of time, that kind of, I'm still grasping on to like, who are the main characters in my story and what are the emotions I'm trying to convey? And I'm just doing it in a completely different way. So the nuts and bolts of the business, you know how to find good emotional characters, you appreciate storytelling, you're a good writer. I think no matter what platform you're sharing that information on, it's probably going to serve you well.
Thank you for taking the time. I know it's a busy and kind of a very hectic and crazy, few weeks, but I really appreciate it. And thank you for the work that you're doing to keep everyone informed. I think it's really important. And thanks to all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I've been talking with Keith McGilvery, anchor from FOX61 in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm Isha Marathe.